991 GT3 RS prices increased with 35% and are therefore sky high. Values are basically at their original MSRP. Something that's of course great to hear if you're an owner, but perhaps disappointing if you are hoping to buy one after some depreciation. However, market data reveals that values might be topping soon. So if you're looking to purchase a GT3 RS right now, hoping to get some of that sweet appreciation, you might end up disappointed. On the other hand, if you're an owner who is already thinking about selling, now might be the correct moment. In this video we'll cover the US GT3 market, how values developed since 2019 and why they might be topping soon. Over here we have the GT3 RS market with the model year on the horizontal axis and the price on the vertical axis. And you can see that there's one car that's skewing the prices. The Porsche fans will know which car this is. Exactly, a 4-liter GT3 RS. Prices for these cars are astronomical and they are incredibly rare. Only one of them is listed for sale and this makes it difficult to apply any sort of analytics to them. And the same applies to the rest of the 997 market. We will therefore focus on the 991 market. That market consists out of 74 cars, 36 991.1s and 38.2s. So the market is split evenly. What's different though is the price. A .1 goes for $220,000 while a .2 goes for $273,000. So that's a premium of $53,000. Nevertheless, prices are still at or above MSRP. A .1 started at $177,000, so if we add 25% for options, we end up at $221,000. And that's almost exactly the median asking price in today's market. If we apply the same trick to the .2, then we can see that prices are even quite a bit above MSRP. Including options, MSRP was around $236,000 and this is $37,000 below the current price level. However, the cars were brand new back then and now they certainly aren't. They have a median mileage of 9,000 miles. There's by the way another important price difference within the .2 market. The ones between the cars with a WiseTech package and the cars without this package. This $18,000 option added certain high performance features. The data becomes a bit sparse, but you can see that this $18,000 is momentarily not fully reflected in the prices. The cars with the WiseTech package have a premium of $10,000. Now what's also interesting to mention is that 991.2 GT3 RS prices overlap almost perfectly with the new 992 GT3. Is that a coincidence or what? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Over here we can see that .2 GT3 RS prices topped at the start of the 992 GT3 price range. Also, we can see that 991.1 GT3 RS prices sit a bit above 991.2 GT3 prices, but that you can basically choose either one of them if your budget is around $215,000. So we know now how the GT3 RS market looks and what the price levels are, but we of course need to place these numbers in a context. Compared to 2019, prices are insanely high, and if you made it till here in the video, I probably don't need to explain that car prices have been increasing since the start of the pandemic. On my channel I keep track of these increases for some of the most popular sports and supercars, so I recommend to check out the other videos if you're interested to find the increase rate for various cars. 996 Carreras for example increased with more than 50%. GT3 RS values didn't increase this much, but values are high nonetheless. Moreover, I think they are so high that it's unlikely that we will see a significant price increase going forward. Hence, if you buy a GT3 RS right now, planning to bank on a similar increase, I think you will be disappointed. But let's have a look at the data to see how extreme the price increase is. Over here we have the average price development between 2019 and 2022 for the .1 and the .2 991 GT3 RSs. And look at that, values soared. Yet, before we continue, I would like to mention that this analysis is based on data from AutoTempest. AutoTempest conveniently pulls listings from a bunch of different websites into one place, so that you can browse through all of them. Check out the link in the description to find the GT3 RSs for sale right now. But now then, let's have a look at the prices. We can see that things developed normally till 2020 Q3. The cars were coming down in value as cars usually do. The .2 lost 8% between 2019 Q3 and 2020 Q3, while this was 6% for the .1. And this makes sense, right? The .2 is the newer car, so it's only logical that prices decreased more. However, after this price decrease, things went a bit crazy. Like in the rest of the market, prices soared. Between 2020 Q4 and 2022 Q1, prices increased with 37% in the .1 market and with 30% in the .2 market. So the .1s clearly increased more and did so consistently. and this reveals an interesting market dynamic. .1 prices crawled up to .2 prices. You see, up until 2020 Q4, the average premium for a .2 over a .1 ranged between 28 and 33%, but averaged 31%. Yet, since then, the premium decreased and it sits now at an average of 25% and currently is only 22%. So .1 prices gained a lot of ground compared to .2 prices. Why do you think this happened? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Now visually, I think we can agree that the price trends look quite strong. The 991.1 trend is pointing up as values increased with 6% during the last quarter, while the .2 price trend flattened slightly with an increase of only 2%. However, I think that we are approaching the end of this severe upward price trend and that we will see some price stabilization soon. We already saw that some markets are topping as prices started to come down. Also, we saw many markets where the price increase rate is actually decreasing, causing a flattening in the price trend. The 991.2 GT3 market is an example of this, and you can click over here if you would like to check out that price trend. The historical price development of the GT3 RS market is clearly linked to the broader market, so it's not unlikely that prices will follow the market trend going forward. Now, besides the broader market trend, there are also a few market-specific indicators that are pointing towards an end of the upward price trend. The first sign is that the average time it takes to sell a GT3 RS is increasing. Over here we can see the average time in days it takes to sell a 991.1 and 991.2. And again, this data is provided by AutoTempest, so a huge thank you to them. But how should we interpret the numbers in this graph? Let's take a look at this 2020 Q2 value for the 991.2. This point has a value of 66, which means that the cars that were sold in 2020 Q2 were on average 66 days advertised for sale. So it's not an exact measure of the time it takes to sell a GT3 RS, but it's a proxy. Now if we look at the trends, then we can see a sharp decrease in the time to sell for the .1 and the .2 since 2020 Q2. So the cars were advertised for sale for a shorter time period, hereby indicating an increase in demand. And remember that this is before prices started to surge. Prices only started to increase at 2020 Q4. So the time to sell might be a predictive indicator for what will happen to the prices. And notice that I purposefully say might. I didn't perform any statistical analysis on this, but in some cases common sense comes a long way. Now if we move through time and keep an eye on the prices, we can see that prices really started to increase from 2021 Q1 onwards, but that the time to sell bottomed already back in 2021 Q2. It has been increasing ever since, and currently it almost takes 60 days to sell a .1 and 40 days to sell a .2. So this means that while advertised prices have been going up, also the time it takes to sell a car has gone up. Hence, demand decreased while prices were climbing. And note that the time to sell increased the quickest in the .1 market. Exactly, that's the segment that also saw the most severe price increase. Now naturally, there will come a moment in time that demand will meet supply and that there will be a stabilization in the prices. Moreover, we might be already approaching this point. You can see that the time to sell is approaching the same levels as the ones we had before the pandemic. Therefore, I think it makes sense to expect a price stabilization in the GT3 RS market. The time to sell might be a good indicator that things are about to change in the GT3 RS market. However, things are also moving on the supply side of the market. Supply namely plummeted in the 991.2 segment. Over here you can see that since May 2020, .2 supply dropped from 64 to 38 cars. It's natural to see supply drops when cars are no longer in production, but this is quite a large and consistent drop, especially given the fact that it takes longer and longer to sell these cars. It does however fit with the price increase. After all else equal, a decrease in supply leads to an increase in the prices. But why do I think that current supply levels might support a conclusion that prices are about to stabilize? Well, I think that supply levels might be a bit too low by now given the produced number of cars for the market and the severity of the supply drop. Hence, I think it's more likely that we will see these lines flattening in the next quarters than that we will see them going down further. That would mean that there would be only around 30 to 34 cars for sale. Naturally, a stabilization in supply in turn is also likely to lead to a stabilization in the upward price trend. I'm fully aware that this supply argument might be a bit of a stretch, but I also think it's something you should be aware of. And with that, I think it's time we wrap up and conclude. Why is it too late to buy a GT3 RS? GT3 RS prices increased with 35%, and if you're hoping to still bank on this increase, you might need to prepare yourself for a disappointment. While prices still increased during last quarter, the time to sell a GT3 RS has been increasing since Q3 of last year and is now approaching pre-pandemic levels. In other words, the cars are selling slower and slower, and this indicates that demand is decreasing. Moreover, this means that demand is likely to get closer to supply, something which means that the market comes closer to an equilibrium and therefore to a more flat price development. On top of all of this comes that especially in the 991.2 market, supply levels have been decreasing. Supply is almost below 991.1 levels. Therefore, given the severe decrease in the production numbers, I think it's likely that we will see a stabilization in supply, something which in turn will lead to a stabilization in the prices, given that demand appears to be decreasing. Those are two reasons that are specific to the GT3 RS market. However, if we take the market context into account, we can see that sports car prices are showing a decrease in their increase rate and that some markets even show price decreases. It's not unthinkable that the same will happen in the GT3 RS market. After all, historically they followed the market trend. So to sum it up, given the developments in the time to sell a car, the supply level and the market trend, I think it's likely that we will see a flatter price development in the upcoming quarters. But all of this is of course my opinion, and like any statement about the future, there's a chance that it might be wrong. So please let me know your thoughts on GT3 RS prices down below in the comment section. And if you don't have any thoughts about the prices, you can let me know for which car you would like to see an analysis. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I will make a video about it. Don't forget then to subscribe and to click on the notification bell so you get notified when your requested analysis goes live. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week for a new analysis.